You're listening to The Peach Pit. I'm here talking with the singer and guitar player from the Calgary rock trio Woodhawk. If you haven't checked them out yet, then you obviously didn't listen to much of my radio show because I played them relentlessly. And after celebrating their 10-year anniversary last year, they're coming back to us this year with a brand new album. Love Finds a Way comes out on June 6th. Turner, thank you so much for taking time to talk to me and welcome to the pit.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. And it's a privilege, a pit privilege. Yeah, there we go.
A pit privilege. There you go. I don't even know why I still say that because it's like all over the internet now. It sounded a little funnier on the radio. It made more sense, but now that this is just a podcast, it's like welcome to my living room.
I like it.
So I wanted to get into the origins of this band because it sounds like you've known Mike for a long time.
Yes, yeah. No, Mike and I went to elementary together. When I moved to Calgary when I was like 10 years old, Mike was my first friend and all that kind of stuff. And so we were always like hanging out, getting in trouble. And then Mike learned how to play guitar, and I was jealous and got him to teach me how to play guitar. And we've been like kind of playing in bands since I think we were like 12 or 13 years old and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of crazy that we're in our 30s now and we're still doing it.
And so when you guys first started sharing guitar back and forth, or no, Mike was kind of teaching you, what kind of bands were you both like going on about back then?
Oh, we would have been like, I mean, we're always obsessed with classic rock. I think the first song I ever learned was Iron Man by Black Sabbath, and then I kind of got really into Jimi Hendrix and Pink Floyd. And Mike was more advanced than me, so he was learning like Rush songs and all that kind of stuff. And I just got like really into like the chord progressions of like AC/DC and just anything I could like kind of be good at. So yeah, just classic rock kids that would just evolved with it.
Well, a good chord progression can take you a long way, right?
I mean, look at the amount of hits that AC/DC has, the amount of records they've made off of like four chords and the same tuning and everything else. It's absolutely impressive.
Or ZZ Top, they said that the secret to their success is that they never learned the fourth chord.
Yeah, they just kept going for it. They just kept playing the blues scale and they're massive. Yeah, exactly.
So you guys played in a lot of punk bands together, though.
Yeah, so we played in a couple like random kind of things here and around Calgary that maybe only played like one or two shows. And then we played in a punk band or two that like kind of traveled across Canada. And that's when when Mike was in college and all that kind of stuff. And we'd pretty much just spend our summers as soon as he would be done in April through to like August. We would just like hit the road as much as we could, and we lived out of our 15 passenger van eating Chef Boyardee and just being like dirty 19-year-olds across the country. And it was like the most fun and the best way to like spend like a growing up across the country. It was awesome.
That that sounds like a good time. I mean, but also sharing the stage with that guy for so long, like you guys, you're kind of must be really in sync now, like creatively.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like I think like for him and I were probably like very much had that kind of brotherhood bond. I think after this much time, like the amount of time I've known Mike is pretty crazy and stuff like that. So it definitely kind of allows us to think the same. I think now even in this band, and he kind of knows what I'm going to do next, and I probably know what he's going to do next. And it's a great relationship to have for being in a band still.
And so the project you guys were in just before this was a punk thing. When that kind of fizzled out and Woodhawk started to form, did you guys have a discussion about what you wanted to do or like a new direction?
Kind of, yeah. We were on our like final kind of punk tour, and we were playing with like a friend of ours who was a drummer and just kind of filling in for this like tour for us. He wanted to come, and he was collecting like all these different like kind of metal and stoner rock bands across. We'd stop in CD shops and record shops across the country, and he kept buying new stuff. And like it was like back then like my first exposure to like Mastodon and a couple other like bands like that, and Truck Fighters and all these kind of stoner kind of starts. And Caius was a big one as well. And I just was falling in love with it, and I was really starting to kind of like not like the punk genre. It was kind of getting a little like I don't know, it was kind of like getting kind of competitive and like a weird kind of edge. I don't know, the scene that we were kind of playing with, people were just kind of getting not as fun to be around and stuff. And I was kind of tired of it. And we were loving this kind of stoner sound. And so we kind of decided like, hey, when this tour is done, we'll play one more show in Calgary and then we'll wrap it up because I kind of want to do something heavier. And the drummer at the time like didn't want to keep doing music. He like was like, I'm done playing drums. So Mike and I were like, we'll find another drummer because like this is clearly what we're both really passionate about and still want to do. So we'll find the right guy for it.
So in the early writing process for those early Woodhawk songs, going into that style, did it feel kind of like natural?
Yes and no. I think it was like really exciting for us to try something that was so out of our element that we hadn't been doing for years. Um, but then it also was kind of nice to challenge ourselves and think outside of like what our normal formula was for like the punk rock music that we were writing and stuff like that. But then also be like, what would, Black Sabbath do? And we'd be like, let's do one of those. And like we would just do different kind of grooves because we thought it was a learning experience, which I think is what is the foundation now for what Woodhawk is still learning.
Right, right, yeah. But if you could, if there was a way you could narrow it down to just two bands, like if these two bands got together and had sex and had made a baby, and that baby was Woodhawk, what were the two bands?
Probably Black Sabbath and The Sword were like
Woo!
our first two that we were like just I was obsessed with Warp Riders and like Age of Winters and all that kind of stuff and Crack the Sky and like Mike was the kind of we were all in the same boat for that kind of stuff. So those are the two like kind of like bands and like records that really made us be like, we should tune our guitars down.
Uh, Interesting side note. So, what do you guys tune to?
D standard for almost everything, and then the new record has a bunch in like C standard and C sharp standard. We kind of like decided to like shake it off and just like play different tunings for different songs to make it like less just less about like convenience for us of like being lazy and more about like what suited the song the best.
And that must also change your vocal approach with it having
Totally.
just really like a half step down.
Yeah, it's kind of like the whole reason like like Ozzy tuned down in like the later Black Sabbath record so he could get even higher. And that's kind of how I felt when we started doing it too. I was like, this is like a weird cheat.
That makes sense. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Cool. So then at some point you guys met Kevin.
Yeah, so like Woodhawk played our like first couple shows with like a friend of ours who was just kind of filling in to kind of get us started. He was like from the punk scene, a good buddy. He actually was the one who played on the EP that we first did. And he was very straight up from the beginning, like, I'll play and kind of help you guys out, but like if you find someone, please get someone else to play drums. And I think it must have been our third show or something, and we met Kevin and we played with Kevin's other band at the time. And Kevin kind of just like came up to us and was like, "Oh, love you guys, love to hang out sometime." And then I think it was the day or two later, Mike and Kevin have the same barber, and Mike was the appointment before Kevin, and kind of mentioned to his barber, being like, "Yeah, Woodhawk's looking for a new drummer because like the guy we are working with doesn't really want to do it forever, so we got to find a permanent guy." Kevin was the next appointment, and he mentioned, "Oh, Mike from Woodhawk was just here, and he's got a new band, and he's looking for a new drummer." And I think within like 45 minutes from when Mike left that hair appointment, our like Facebook and email and texts were blowing up from Kevin being like, "Hey, I'm Kevin. I met you at so and so. I'd love to just like have a chance to try out with you guys and hang out." And we were like, "Sweet."
So he was gung ho from the beginning, it sounds like.
He was gung ho, and it worked out well. I mean, like we definitely put him through the ringer a little bit and like made him come back for like two or three tryouts before we gave him the full go ahead. But we were just like wanted to make sure he was the dude because if we were gonna like be a band for as long as we've now been a band, we wanted to make sure we all gelled and it wasn't just like a yeah, you're really good at playing the songs, but can we write? Can we gel? Can we be friends? Like kind of that kind of stuff. And it really was actually more instant than we give it credit for. I think the other two jams that we made him come back for were just a little cruel.
But it makes sense. You got to make sure that you got the right vibe because you're going on tour, getting into a van together, sleeping feet away from each other, smelling each other's
Exactly.
BO.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to align on everything, right? So I mean, it was like, just talking. We would do like stuff even in the first little bit. Like we'd try and do dinner together a lot, just like, grab a beer and like just do things to kind of become friends and all that kind of stuff. And at the time, Mike and I were both very like avid homebrewers. And like Mike had like a kegerator thing in his basement where we were jamming. And so one of our first like kind of things we did in the first few months was like we all made a beer together and just like got really drunk while we made beer. And I think we kind of wrecked like Mike's mom's stove doing it, but yeah, it was a bonding experience.
I was wondering when we were going to start talking about craft beer because I've been waiting. Because, like, with the new album, Love Finds a Way, I didn't see if you guys announced a beer to go with it.
No, not this time. Yeah, yeah, no, we didn't.
Well, because, like, you did that with Beyond the Sun, right?
That was Violent Nature. Yeah, we made a
Oh,
Violent Nature like black saison and all that kind of stuff with a brewery here in Calgary.
Well, I was just kind of because I know you got influenced by Mastodon from your old drummer, so I was thinking like because they always do a different element, right? Like this is a water album, this is a wood fire. You could do like this is a pilsner, this is a lager, this is a saison.
Where were you 10 years ago to suggest that to me? That's a great idea.
Well, it's not too late. You can still put that up.
No, it's we
So
could maybe for the 10th anniversary of Beyond the Sun, we'll go back and we'll try and get a small brewery here to do a beer for us, and then we can like pivot off of all the anniversaries, and then we can continue the trend.
but if you had to describe Love Finds a Way as an album, would you say it's a stout? Would you say it's a pilsner?
It's an IPA.
Oh, it's an
It's
IPA.
it's a hazy IPA. It's got a lot of elements for you. It's sweet, it's a little bitter, it's aromatic,
A little sour.
it's a little, yeah, a little tart there. It's 8%. It's not a dinky one. It's a big IPA. You're getting everything. Beyond the Sun might have been more like your kind of like Pilsner. It might have been a bit
Yeah.
more crushable. It was like a 35-minute album. Maybe we make Violent Nature like more of that kind of like stout because it was a bit more like kind of heavy in between the two to kind of digest. And now we're into IPAs, which is, yeah, we're a hazy band.
But you went with saison, though.
We did go space on. Ultimately, it wasn't our choice when we made the beer, but it was a good beer.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you guys, are you still really into craft brew?
Well, so it's funny. I work for a craft brewery as my full-time job, so like I'm very involved in like the industry as a whole. We are still like all like really into craft beer and stuff. I mean, like throughout the last like little bit, not we don't really drink that much anymore. Like it's all kind of as we get older, it's all kind of tamed down and stuff like that. Like our fridge is now just filled with bubbly instead of beer and all that because it's just getting older, right? So got to take care of ourselves a little bit more. But we all still like it. Like we're all still a craft beer fan. Like I like going to different cities and still checking out a brewery when we go through. And I will always appreciate a local venue that has a local beer on tap versus PBR still.
We are getting older. Like I can have an IPA, but I can have one.
Yeah.
It just destroys my stomach.
Yeah, it's just too hard on it and stuff like that. It's just, yeah, I mean, I love them to death, but I'm just like, I feel so much better if I just drink water and
Yeah.
coffee and tea and everything else. And I'm just like, this is just better for me,
So stay
especially
hydrated.
being in the industry. Yeah.
Yeah. And being the singer, right? Like
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Beer and vocals don't always mix the best together. So try and take care of myself.
I need to ask you about Mark. I think his last name's Kowalchuk. I'm not sure how to say it.
Cool track. Yeah.
How the hell did you guys come like this guy has done artwork for Metallica and In Flames, and now like he's been doing artwork with you the whole from the beginning, right?
Yeah, he's just a really good friend of ours. Like, so like as funny as it is, like we've known Mark. I mean, like he was doing stuff for In Flames before he worked with us. He's known Anders for the longest time and stuff like that. But he just came to one of our shows. He was like friends with one of our other friends' band, and I think we needed him to like work merch. And we're just like, he was selling. He had done a shirt for another band in Calgary, and he was like, "Yeah, like this was my shirt. I just designed it for them, kind of thing." And we're like, "That's awesome, man! Like, any chance you're going to be back here behind the merch booth for a bit and could sell our shirts? Because that would really help us out when we go play." And he's like, "Oh yeah, man, no worries, I got you." And we came back and he's like, "Oh, I really like you guys." And we kind of just became friends. And he's like, "I'd love to do shirts for you." And we're like, "Yeah, for sure." Like we loved his designs, and so he did a couple shirts for us. And then when we were kind of would like hang out with them at like catch up and all that kind of stuff, he's like, I've never been able to do an album. Like bands always hired me, like in smaller ones or in Flames, just to do shirts. He's like, I got approached by a very big band one time to do one of their albums, and I missed the mark, and they didn't pick my art. And so we were kind of like, all right, when we do our first record, we're going to give you that. Like, whatever it is, we'll work through all the back and forth as much as it takes. And so we gave him Beyond the Sun, and he just knocked it out of the park on the first go. And he's kind of just been our go to guy ever since. Like, when we did Violent Nature, he was kind of like, can I do it again? And we're like, yeah, of course. And I think like we did the same thing, a lot of ebbs and flows, trying to figure things out and get it to where we all wanted, but he kills it. Like, he's kind of just, we have so much trust in like the way we can talk to him and kind of figure things out. Like, he's a very busy guy with what he does for a normal job and all that kind of stuff. So when we can kind of work with everyone's timing and all that kind of stuff and just have the back and forth where it's not as like, all right, guys, you're getting into my time now. Like, he's
Right.
just a good dude. And then so it's cool to see him, like, like when we were kind of planning this all out, and like he told us about Metallica, like very much like hush hush. And so we were like, I think the three of us that knew, and we're just kind of like being as quiet as we could, like being like, it doesn't leave this room. Don't worry. Like, we're pretty stoked for him. I mean, he's an incredible artist, and so we're very, very, very excited to work with him. And we have some really other cool artwork coming up from him in the next couple of weeks that we just saw today. So we're stoked.
Sweet. Like meeting Kevin and then meeting him is like things are just kind of like aligning, you know?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
so music.
Love finds a way.
Yeah. There, that's maybe we should get into that. Like what made you guys choose that as the title?
Oh yeah. It was the one of our favorite songs on the record for sure. It's kind of written near the end of the record, but it was kind of like, really felt like over the last like few years we really had to kind of fight to still stay together and be a band. Like Mike now lives in Edmonton, so he's a couple hours away. We all just kind of the pandemic really switched everything around from like we had 2020 being an entire year of like touring Canada and Europe, and we lost all of that, a week or two before we were supposed to leave, and it was brutal. And so like to try and be a band through the pandemic was difficult. We lost saw a lot of bands like leave and stuff like that, but we really just kind of realized the reason we all still do it is because like as we're three best friends and we really just love each other and like being around each other and like making music. And so it's kind of like what kept us together. And like the reason it did take 6 years to put out another record was, it's we just want to do it and we just want to do it together. And so like love found a way, and that's kind of we just felt very like kind of therapeutic behind it. Like it had a strong meaning. It's a little like less cheesy in the sense of like one of our previous record titles and went a bit more hard on the sleeve, but it really rung true to us that we felt like we just our love for each other is the reason we got to do it still.
Well, and it kind of goes along with like like you guys are getting more and more comfortable with like putting yourselves into the music and letting yourselves be vulnerable, right? Like with like Beyond the Sun, you had the Star Wars song, stuff like that. Violent Nature, you kind of went into deeper topics. And so I'm imagining with the future of Woodhawk, it's going to be more of that, like bringing in more of these influences and letting them out instead of trying to hide something and just kind of go through the motions and make something that will sell. Does that make
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just like I think like Woodhawk is like from Violent Nature onwards really became this like therapeutic outlet for all of us. It was kind of somewhere where we could talk to each other in the room and say things that maybe like you wouldn't always like. We're always bad at still talking as people. We are like communicating what's on our hearts and what's on our mind and stuff like that. And we've kind of gotten better with the three of us of just having so much trust in each other and like saying how you're feeling and like if they can be hard topics to bring up with each other and stuff like that, but you just feel better when you talk to your friends and you have a support system. And we kind of started doing that in Violent Nature and being closer and that kind of stuff. And I think it really just only grew and we became even closer over the last like few years, even more so. And Love Finds a Way was really like a testament to that of just like, just being honest and vulnerable with each other and just loving and trusting your best friends.
Absolutely. And like you were just saying too, with you guys had a lot of tour plans right before COVID happened. So did you guys ever make it over to Europe?
No, no, we still have a couple of the offers from a few festivals and stuff like that. And they offered us again in like 21 and 22, but we just weren't ready. We kind of were still figuring things out. A lot of us started new jobs and new careers, and Mike had a baby and all that kind of stuff. And we just decided to kind of pump the brakes and go, we'll go when we're ready. We didn't have a new record out. We kind of were tinkering with the idea of writing a new record. We were I think we had a couple songs for Love Finds a Way, but it was still kind of like figuring out, are we going to do this or are we not going to do this? So we didn't tour, we didn't do anything. We just decided to buckle down and write a record for the next 2 years.
Well, that's good that you don't just try to rush it, right? Just to put something out and stay like, oh, look, we made something, or, just to keep it.
We like that's it's we I think we all still feel really proud of everything we've put out. Some people can always regret like, "Oh, I wish I wouldn't have done this. I wish I would have done that." But we're all pretty proud of everything because it's very much a timestamp of where we were at that point in our lives. Like Beyond the Sun, being like huge fans of the Sword and Black Sabbath, and it's very on the sleeve for that one for sure. And like being into Wizards and all that kind of stuff. And I love it because I can picture my age and who I was and what I was like back then. And it's like a photograph, but it's audio. It's amazing. So I like that we get to kind of do that. And I still feel like when I go back and listen to the old records and even this one, like I know exactly where I was and I know where we were and all that kind of stuff.
Well, and that must also it must be a trip to kind of watch some of the old music videos because you remember what it was like to shoot it and everything that was happening at the time, right?
Oh, for sure. Especially the old tour footage and stuff we have. It's weird.
Did you guys have many music videos planned for this release?
No, none on this one, honestly. Like it's kind of tricky because when we did Violent Nature, music videos were kind of coming back, and we were like seeing some of our friends do it. Like Kevin Keegan helped us direct that one that we did do, and the funding for music videos has kind of gone down, and we kind of noticed, like unfortunately with people's attention span moving more towards like TikTok and stuff like that, the 3 4 minute music videos just no one has the attention span for it. You can make a 30-second Instagram video and people will watch 15 seconds of it and hit next.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the resources you have to kind of invest into it now just aren't really just not something we felt like it was worth for this go, unfortunately.
A lot of people are going in the way of visualizers nowadays too. So many people listen to music on YouTube, and that works.
Exactly. Yeah, but the compilation videos, I mean, like I still like little things like behind the scenes and like tours and studio footage. So we have a lot of that kind of stuff, which at least kind of allows us to make little videos and like kind of like an eye into Woodhawk and stuff like that, but not a full on like acting and all that kind of stuff. And yeah.
I was trying to look through the credits or the new album. Who played the keys on this one? Was it Mary again?
Yeah, so Marie played keys on the record. Like we kind of were jamming with her for a couple of years there when she was in our band for a little bit. Kind of we had a keyboard player kind of come and go through our time. She played all the keys, did an amazing job. And then Jesse Gander played like all the kind of synth and a few other kind of things in there, but like all the organ and piano is done by Marie.
Okay, so Jesse has been in the room with you guys for every album, hasn't he?
Yeah, totally. Again, like kind of for recording, it's kind of been our go-to guy. Like we've just again become good friends with him, and especially considering that Juno produced records he's now got under his belt is pretty awesome. So it's like we're still stoked to work with him, and when we're there, we stay at the studio. We go to dinner with him like almost every night. This last time for the record, we like brought our bikes out, and he would take us like biking around Vancouver all night, and we go back, and so we just hung out all the time. So again, just a good friend of ours now, which is amazing.
Well, everyone wants to see you guys succeed. It seems like as soon as they meet you, they're like, "Hell yeah, Woodhawk, let's go!" Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we're kind of nice guys. I mean, I like my two friends that I get to hang out with. Why wouldn't anyone else want to like them too?
So, in the future, are you guys ever planning on going to the UK? Because I was thinking, wouldn't it be so cool if you could go check out the Witchwood Brewery?
Yeah, that would be a really good nod. If we, I that would be high on the list if we could. I know like we do have our sights on Europe and UK. It's because of, especially some of those offers. That's just figuring out timing right now. Like because like, we have a big Canadian tour coming up later this year, and once that wraps up, we're going to kind of look at what's next kind of thing. Because now that we got a record out and can move around a bit more, we'll probably try and do a little bit more with our time now that we're a band again.
And what really makes me scratch my head is Germany. Germany
Yeah.
loves you guys.
It's funny. So all the pre-sales we have right now, like for the new record, I would say about 85% of them are all to Germany, which is just wild when we look at it. We're shipping more records overseas than we are in Canada.
Is it- maybe just Germans listen to music more than us. I don't know.
I had heard something like a couple like friends bands who have done it is that like heavy music like ourselves and the whole like kind of radio lock of like 3.5 minutes isn't like a thing there. So bands like ourselves get on mainstream radio more often, and you will hear heavier music that doesn't have the restrictions, all that kind of stuff. So the whole CanCon thing here, it's like you got to be 3 minutes, got to fit this formula, or you don't get on. And it's kind of the same in the States for certain stuff, unless you get on satellite radio. But Germany and like a lot of Europe doesn't do that. They're like they'll play bands like ourselves if they're on a label and do other things like 5 minutes. Sure, we'll play it. If it does well, it'll do well.
Yeah, CanCon has always been kind of clunky, for lack of a better
Yes.
word. Like you could say that it's it's a good. You get what they're trying to do, but in reality, it hasn't really helped artists here in Canada that much. You could say.
No, it's kind of helped the same ones over and over and stuff like that. And again, like after I think it was after Beyond the Sun, in between Violent Nature, we had done like a stuff for like a local like mainstream radio here, and the guy kind of after we were done talking to him, he's like said to us like, you guys are this close. If you just shorten your songs a bit and fit the formula, like, you'll be on our radio station tomorrow. And he's like, and I know all the people. I can put you in touch with these people. You'll get on Canada's radio instantly if you guys just do this stuff. And we sat down and I think we left on a tour and we kind of talked about it like, okay, if we're this close, do we do it? Do we write a 3 minute song that maybe kind of breaks what we like, but it might break us through to the next step? And ultimately we just kind of like, Couldn't do it. It was just like if it happens naturally, awesome, but we just really didn't want to sell ourselves short for just trying to make something different because it wasn't true to who we were, and like especially making a record like Violent Nature that was so honest and stuff like that. It would be it would be the most dishonest thing to do would be make a
Well, yeah,
canned contract.
yeah. No, that makes complete sense. I mean, you, yeah, all that staying true and sort of stuff. It's like this CanCon thing is just kind of I don't know. People need to listen to more college radio and community radio, right?
Absolutely, it's amazing. There's amazing like DJs out there and stuff like that, and like plug in local bands. Like you want to know how to find local bands, listen to your college radio. And like go to shows and like kind of find out where they're getting. Honestly, like you can knock Spotify for like some of the streaming stuff like that, but like if you're into stoner rock, you'll probably find some great local stoner rock bands just by listening to the big stoner rock playlist. Our stuff gets added to it all the time, and it's amazing. Like we'll find people in Calgary who still come up to our shows and like, I just had a stoner rock playlist on at work, and you guys came on, and now I'm here. And I'm like, then it works. That's awesome. Like that's great. I mean, if you listen to your local mainstream rock radio, you weren't going to find us.
Yeah. Well, and for me, like I when I first started out, I barely knew any Canadian bands, and one by one, I was finding them on Bandcamp and then following them on Instagram. Well, if you do that for long enough, you finally get into an algorithm where now I have way too many bands popping up on my Instagram for me to possibly keep up with. So there is a way to get into
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
I wanted to talk to you about because in one of the interviews you were mentioning being a business as a band, and you recommended that bands go register as a business. So, what are some of the advantages you've noticed?
Yeah, I mean, like, I recommend like if you're gonna kind of do this, like more so than playing a couple gigs a year. I think like being a business is just kind of a no brainer. Like getting your tax ID and all that kind of stuff. Like we do charge tax throughout all of our kind of stuff. We make sure we claim it properly and stuff. But like your instruments are tools. It's a trade, so it's the things you can write off and all that kind of stuff. And it does go against your taxes and other things like that. And it allowed us to get like a band credit card and stuff like that, so we're not each kind of e-transferring shirt companies and record companies and trying to buy stuff like and who owes who. It's like no, everything's just tracked through a bank account, all that kind of stuff. Like so when we get paid from a venue, it doesn't go to anyone's name, it goes to Woodhawk Entertainment, and we are a partnership amongst the three of us. And that's how it makes it so much easier. Like it's a little bit to get you going, but like in terms of like for taxes and everything else, like, it's just a no-brainer. And there will hit a point that if you ever start making enough money or you want certain grants, you have to be a business. Like that's kind of a big thing for the grant side of things too, is you have to have like a tax ID and all that kind of stuff to get certain grants. So
That it makes it sounds like you could have a lot of things you could potentially write off. Like, couldn't you potentially write off like gas for a tour
yeah,
or even your
yeah,
hotel?
definitely. Exactly, all that. Like you technically can write off up to a certain point for like touring if you're going a certain kilometers and what your spend is. You can decide like what an average per diem per member is, all that kind of stuff, what your gas expenses is. I mean, so like if you do get a hotel, you get a percentage towards that. Like all these things go against it. And so it's like, why wouldn't you do that? Like when we can go on the road and we can actually like, we like to cook a lot and like we like to, eat as healthy and quick as possible without doing fast food. But if we can like get to a place where we can sit down, we can actually expense with the credit card. It is our per diem meal, and it's again goes against the taxes later for what we do, and it's been awesome for us so far. And I couldn't like not recommend it enough to any band to be a business. And if you ever want to know, just reach out to us because Mike has an entire he's built like a PowerPoint presentation and document on how to do it and who you need to talk to. And it's like to get the steps there, it takes a little bit of work, but if you want to know, just reach out to us. We're happy to share it.
So reach out to Woodhawk, everybody. I wanted to ask you about the future plans for the band right now. You got the release coming up. You got some CD release shows to do. What else is on your radar?
Yeah, so we got the record release shows coming up here in June. The actual record itself comes out June 6th. And then the weekend after, we're going to play two shows, one in Edmonton, one in Calgary. So it'd be at the Buckingham in Edmonton and the Palomino in Calgary. We're playing Loud as Hell Festival later this year, which is pretty awesome. Yeah, we'll be like we're playing the same day as like Revocation, opening up for them, which will be awesome. And then we have a full Canadian tour coming out later in the summer and into fall. So we'll be like just getting back in the van and spending a couple weeks on the road. So,
What
and
about
then we'll come back and we'll kind of settle.
what about the US? Any plans to hit the US?
Not right away.
I was kind of curious about because like we were just talking about the business thing. Like getting that crazy expensive visa just to go across the border. Could you write that off?
Ooh,
Maybe not.
maybe? That's not one I've looked into too far. We had looked into it a bit more in, like, 2020. We were, like, looking at going there in the fall of that year when we planned all the old touring. But yeah, that, like, we wanna go to the States, but it's kind of like, I mean, right now as well, it's a little unpredictable with certain things and all
Yeah.
that kinda
Yeah, yeah.
stuff. But the visas as well don't exactly add to that being any easier for us to get over and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's unfortunately not probably on our top priority of where we're gonna be touring. Like, I think, like, Europe and UK are a little higher in our sight lines.
Have you guys gone through any of that process, though, of getting the visa to go down there or anything like that?
No,
Mm.
no, not for that one. Like, it was, like, kinda, like, literally just we had done, like, all the research to see, like, what we needed to do and, like, make sure we had background checks and stuff like that. It was kinda, like, about as far as we got.
Well, I've heard stories. I was talking to a band from Kelowna. They said that they had just gotten it before COVID happened, and then they got a message from somebody at the border telling them to keep paying their dues to keep it active. Not,
Huh.
and they were saying, "Well, why would I keep paying to have the visa if I can't even go play a show here in my hometown?" Like,
Yeah.
so it's a weird one.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of weird. Yeah, it's super weird. So, I know, like, our friends in, like, Ancients are going out later this year and all that kinda stuff, and, like, so I'll probably, like, bug Kenny and Brock and stuff like that and just, like, kinda see how it went for them in that sense. I mean, they're an amazing band, and they have a bit more, like, kinda pull to go down there and stuff than we do and stuff, so but just be curious to hear how it is.
So you have the music, you have the craft beer. What else fills your cup? What are the other hobbies in your life?
Ooh, oh, man. What else do we do? I make a lot of pizza. I'm a pretty big pizza nerd. Um, lot of pizza. Love, like, we all like biking and, like, kinda being outside and stuff like that. Hockey, we're kinda typical Canadians in that sense.
I know that you get probably talk a lot about how you made a song about Star Wars, and I assume you all like Star Wars. But is there anything that would be like even more representative? Like, are any of you into like Lord of the Rings or
That would Yeah, Mike and I are the most, like, probably, like, the biggest, like, Lord of the Rings kinda ones. Like,
really?
I watch the trilogy with my partner, like, 4 times a year.
Do you guys ever do some D&D?
No, we don't. I My partner does, and she's been, like, trying to, like, get me to do it for a long time, and so I'm trying to gotta get myself on a campaign.
It takes a lot of work planning and all that, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
Is there any other advice that you have for any other musicians out there who are just trying to make a go at it?
And support your scene, go see your friends' bands, they'll come see you, just be nice to each other. There's no need for egos or being a jerk and stuff like that. Just be nice, just be kind. Goes along way, way, way further for you. Just love each other, be awesome.
Amen. And is there any shout outs that you need to make?
Oh, shout out to my mom. I love you.
Yes. That's awesome. Hell yeah. It's coming up to Mother's Day in a little while, right? So
Exactly.
great. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to me. You've all been listening to The Peach Pit. I've been talking with Turner from the band Woodhawk, the rock trio from Calgary. Their new album, Love Finds a Way, comes out on June 6th. Turner, take care of yourself and keep on keeping on. I don't know. I need a tagline to put at the end here.
I love it. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, you too, man. Cheers.